Hello, I'm Kissinger Anratilia from BTV Ed for CFSM, and I'm going to present to you the 11th step on how to assemble the computer. Before you assemble a computer, make sure you have read important safety consideration and tips for success before you begin your build. First, remove back screw, and second, take side cover off. Tips: it's easiest to work on your PC with it laying on a flat surface, so the open side is facing up. And step 2, mount motherboard. Screw motherboard standoffs in the case. The motherboard sits on the top of the motherboard. Stands off which screw in the computer case's mounting points. The top of the standoff has thread for the motherboard mounting screws to screws into. Second, punch out near 1/0 plate from the case if existing, and replace it with the motherboard 1/0 plate. Fasten the motherboard in a place on top of the mounting standoff. Tips: install the mounting standoff in the case position that match the screws mounting holes on your motherboard. Step 3. Mount processor or CPU. First, locate the CPU socket holder on the motherboard. Second, lift up the beach lever to release and hinge open the CPU socket cover. And third, holding the CPU by its sides, line up any alignment, notches, or the triangle on the corner of the CPU to the triangle mark on the motherboard to ensure the correct orientation. Gently place it straight down into the motherboard socket to seat the CPU. Fourth, lower the CPU socket cover over the CPU and lower the latch lever closed again to secure the CPU socket holder closed. Tips: don't apply force to seat the CPU. Avoid touching or pressing down on the back of the CPU with your fingers, as any residue from your hands can destroy the heat transfer surface for the cooler, which will be mounted next. Step 4. Install CPU cooler. First, if required, apply thermal paste to the back of CPU. Note, some CPU coolers do come with a thermal pad already applied, in which case you can skip step 1. If yours doesn't, you will need to apply thermal paste to the CPU surface before seating the CPU cooler in position. And second, seat CPU heatsink or cooler and fix in position. Third, plug the power cable attached to the cooler from into the motherboard connector. Step 5. Install power supply or PSU. First, mount the power supply and fasten with screw to the case mounting points. Second, plug the largest cabling connector from the power supply cabling into the motherboard power connector. Third, plug the 8-pin cabling connector from the power supply cabling into the CPU power connector. Step 6. Mount memory or RAM. First, press the open clips of both ends of the RAM mounting slots. Second, line up the notch on the RAM stick with the mounting slot. Third, set the RAM and press it firmly down into the slot. The tabs should automatically latch close as you press the RAM down, securing the RAM in place. Fourth, install any other RAM stick using the same process. Note: most motherboards will have multiple RAM mounting slots. If you are installing pairs of RAM sticks, mount them in the same color slot on the motherboard. Step 7. Install graphics card. Note: not all computers have a dedicated graphics card. If you have decided to use the onboard graphics of your motherboard instead of installing a dedicated graphics card, you can skip this section. First, remove the expansion slot covers from the near of your case where the graphics card will sit. Second, the graphics card slot into a PC1 expansion slot on the lower half of the motherboard. Line it up and press down firmly to sit the card. Third, put in the screws to hold the graphics card in place. Fourth, plug in the power connectors cables from your power supply into the graphics card power connector. If existing, not all graphics card required external power. Note: when you plug in your display monitor, always use the output ports of the graphics and first, if you have one installed, and not the output ports of the motherboard itself. This ensures you are actually using your graphics card. Step 8. Mount storage drives. First, mount storage drives in the case drive's base. Fix the drive in a place with screw through the case frame in the case mounting holes located on the storage drive. Second, connect the drive to the motherboard using a SATA cable. Third, plug in power cabling to the storage drive. Fourth, mount any other storage drives in the same way. Step 9. Mount optical drive. Note: optical drives are optional and only required if you wish to read or write CDs, DVDs, or Blu-ray discs. Some people choose not to include an optical drive in their PC build if they don't plan on using optical discs. First, remove any front panels from the computer case where the optical drive will sit. Second, mount optical drive in the case by fixing with screws through the case frame into the case mounting holes located on the optical drive. Third, connect the optical drive to the motherboard using a SATA cable. Fourth, plug in power cabling from your power supply to the optical drive. And step 10, connect case fans and front panel connectors. Note: some computer cases come with case fans already installed or mounted within the case. In other cases, you might need to mount your own case fans, or you may even choose to run your computer without any case fans at all. First, mount any case fans within your case as required using the supply screw or clips. Second, connect any case fan power connector to the multiple fan headers located at various places on the motherboard. Third, identify the cabling from the front panel ports of your PC. These front panels connectors will need to be plugged into the motherboard so that buttons and outputs 1/0 on your case front panel will work. Fourth, connect any front panel audio connectors to the motherboard front audio header. 5. Connect any front panel USB connectors to the motherboard USB header. 6. Connect the front panel case connectors to the motherboard panel 1/0 headers. Note: different computer cases may have slightly different 1/0 connections, but generally, both the connectors and motherboard headers are labeled, so use this to your advantage when working out where to plug each cabling connector. Step 11. Close case and connect peripherals. First, place the side cover back on. Second, secure the side panel with case screw. Third, connect peripheral devices including mouse, monitor, keyboard and speaker, and etc. And that's all, the 11th step of assembling the computer. Hope you enjoy. Thank you.